Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how you can go from this over here to this. Alright, so let's start. We are going to take this Rhino file and export it into KeyShot. The first thing we want to do is to rename our layers. Currently they are in the default material. Go over to layers, located here, and we want to start naming the layers. I'm going to name it Stool-top, remove the spacing, Stool-top, and I'm going to double click here, and I'm going to name this Stool-legs. Okay, now that I've got both layers set up, all I have to do is just go over to the top of the stool, go over to layers, layer properties to be precise, click this, and change it back to using layer material. Once I've done that, go back to properties over here and change this to stool top. Alright, next select all of these legs, go back to material, change this to use layer material, back to properties, and change this to stool legs. Right. So now that I've reclassed all the objects according to the new layers, start by saving the file and then exporting this file into KeyShot. So here we are in KeyShot. I'm going to start by importing the file. So you click on this button here at the bottom. Set the position to Z. Hit import. And there you go. We have brought in our stool from Rhino. In order to move around and navigate in KeyShot, you use your left mouse button. This allows you to kind of orbit around the space. You can turn on GPU to lighten up the load so it uses less resources. Now, another thing that you can do is to start by adding materials. So materials are located on the left hand side. There's this panel here called a library. And in the library, there are many different types of folders. You can test them out. Say if I like this wood material, just drag this and drop it. So you can drag different materials into different aspects of the stool, like so. Okay, very easy, just a drag and drop function. So if you look on the right hand side, you'll see under scenes, you'll see your file name. And if you expand this, you see stool top, and it will be highlighted in orange, and you see stool legs, and they will be highlighted in orange. So it's very important to name your files, and that's why we took the trouble of layering them in Rhino. Once you have set this up, I'm going to set up the camera. Come over to camera over here, create a new camera, and we're just going to leave it as camera 1. You can change the focal length. I'll just use 35. This would make the look a little bit more dramatic. Once you like how it looks, you can just click on save. But before we do that, I'm going to go over to backplate. So backplate is located on the left hand side here, and backplates are basically backgrounds. You can just drag and drop any of these backgrounds into the scene. For example, like this. I'm just going to drag it in. And there you go, I have the background behind. So you can do it like that too. Once you have the appropriate background, you can then place your object carefully to make it look like it's part of the scene. Alright, this is the use of backplate. On the left of the backplate would be environment. We just have to know that environment produces the lighting by using HDRI maps. They are basically panorama images that provide the lighting in the scene. If you mouse over this, for instance, you'll see that it's a bathroom scene. I'm going to drag this in, but this doesn't really become a bathroom. We're just kind of using the lights from this picture. I'm going to show you. So you can see it's using the lighting from the bathroom and not quite showing the bathroom scene. So if you use different HDRI lighting, you'll get different results. You can even use a studio setup there are many different types of studio setups, a 3-panel lighting like this. So you can see this probably works better in an indoor studio scene. I think I'm going to keep to that. You can adjust your lighting over here. So these are pins that you can kind of move around to affect the light. Can you see it's affecting the light on the top of the stool? You can make small adjustments by moving the pins directly. You can adjust the brightness levels as well, even the sizes. Come over to the right hand side tab over here. There's this main lighting panel, and in here you can always set up your lighting according to the situation. But in this case, I'm lighting a product, so I'm going to select product. If it's an interior, then you select interior. So I'm just going to keep it to product. Now that this has been set up, I'm going to show you a few things of what you can do within materials itself. If you go under textures located here, you'll see all these different weird looking textures. I'm going to show you one quick example of what they do. I'm going to use this hand texture over here, drag it into the scene, and then this dialog box will appear. You see that there are different ways of somewhat applying the texture. You can apply it as a paint over, like this, or you can apply it as a specular, which is affecting the reflections, or you can apply it as a bump, so it looks like somebody has pressed into the surface, and of course opacity or labels. But in this case, it's really either the diffuse or the bump or the specular. So these are ways that you can use texture mappings. I've used quite an extreme example. So obviously what I normally like to do is to find a grain. So let me find one. Okay, it's hard to find a wood grain texture, but perhaps this might work. But you can see I put it in bump, and right now the surface looks a little bit more wetted as compared to that smooth surface over here. If it's a close-up, you might use a texture like this. But usually for cases where you can't really see and it's far away, there's really no need to use textures. So going back to camera, I will try to get a nice angle, and then I'll click save. Right now my camera one is locked, so if I were to change my position, all I have to do is just click on the refresh button and you'll return back to the original position. Now this is all set up. I'm going to click on render. Okay, do remember to name your file. I'm going to name it Artek Stool render. Remember to place it into the right folder. You can use PNG for higher quality renders, but in most cases for testing, I'll just normally use JPEGs. Okay, that seems good enough. I'll click render, and you can see that custom quality is not supported with GPU mode, so do remember to turn off the GPU. You may decide to add in a denoise filter as well to make it nice and sharp. Under options, make sure you select maximum. Okay, so let's hit render and find out. Okay, there you go. We have created our very first render in KeyShot. I'm not too happy with the renders, so I'm going to adjust the lighting. Come over to environment over here. I'm going to increase the brightness, so I'm going to make it 2. Now it's a lot brighter, and I'm going to adjust some of these lighting nodes. Okay, let's see if I can get a bit more contrast. Okay, and then I'm going to scroll down. Make sure you select all these ground shadows and ground reflections so that you get this nice reflection going on, and of course the occlusion ground shadows as well, which are like contact shadows. Alright, so yeah, this is much better. I might try 1.8. Okay, so then you can go over to camera, go over to image, and you can turn on photographic. And in the denoise layer over here, just to sharpen things up a little bit. Yeah, this looks way much better. Let's go over to environment again and see if I can increase the brightness of this. Yeah, so it's way much better if I can get a bit more contrast this way. This is much better. Okay. Right, so this is a lot better. And then I'm gonna hit render. So there you go. This is how you can create your first rendering, make some revisions to churn out a better rendering